If you are buying a house, you want to make a good decision, right? I mean, no one intentionally makes a bad home purchase, but trust me, I've seen some things. And if you don't know what to look for, you could not only get something that's just a bad buy, but it could be like the worst financial purchase decision of your life. Today, I'm going to go over what houses not to buy, some of the biggest house mistakes I've seen, and by the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to watch out for. They're all relevant, but one of them has actually made the seller millions of dollars. No exaggeration. I go by Ian of Austin everywhere on the internet. I am your real estate nerd. And if this is your first time coming to the channel, I appreciate you. Let's talk about why this video could be for you. If you're buying a house in Austin or anywhere really, whether you're a first time buyer or moving up to your next home, let's break this video down. Some houses are hard to resell. Some have hidden issues that most people overlook. Some mistakes will end up costing you thousands later on, and others have made people a lot of money. Let's get into the topics. You've probably heard the term cookie cutter homes, and might be enticing to buy a home in a cookie cutter neighborhood. Because in Austin or in the Austin area, a lot of the houses are new or they have really nice amenities or something to that effect. But what happens when everyone's house looks the same? And I've seen this firsthand where people will buy houses that look the same except for like the paint might be a different color. It's all fine until it's time to sell. And then suddenly there are 12 other homes just like it on the market. And even with high quality photos, great marketing, networking with other realtors, it's not necessarily enough to move the needle. And so I had this issue where no matter how many realtors I talked to or how many things that I did, I was struggling to stand out for my client's property. That's actually one of the reasons why I started getting into creating videos for my clients' listings. Because anyone can take listing photos. A lot of people just use their phones, but I hire a professional photographer, but also I go in and I make video content. There's so many realtors that still don't do that. Like they'll have a photo that just slides to the side and they'll call that a video tour. It's like, So my goal is to try to tell a story either about the house or about the situation, which gets people to watch the content. And now I get, thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of views on these listings that go out to the world in the internet. Because how else can you tell someone that this home is special when there's 5 other houses just like it for maybe the same price in the same neighborhood that look the same? See what I mean? Another one is buying homes near major developments. I had a client that bought a home near a massive overpass. It was built off of 183 in Cedar Park. At the time, great house, perfect house for them, actually. It was on a double-ended cul-de-sac. First time I had seen that, that was awesome. On a quiet street, everything was lovely. It was a cookie cutter style home, but they had made some renovations on the inside. It looked ultra cute. It really stood out. But then fast forward a few years and 183 was built. And so now you have the sound of motorcycles racing late at night, the sound of trucks that aren't supposed to engine brake in residential neighborhoods, except you hear, a lot of highway noise, you name it. Now imagine trying to sell that home when you walk out with clients and in the backyard, all they hear is screeching noises from the highway. And you're like, but look at this view though, look at how private the backyard is. And you hear all these noises over there. So like future development isn't always bad, but it is absolutely something to research that's coming in before you buy. Sometimes it's a boon, right? Sometimes there are neighborhoods that are going to be created or facilities that they're going to put in that will make it more attractive. And so you really want to talk to your realtor or your real estate professional about those types of things. Another one that hits really hard most of the time is the lighting, like natural light. Early in my career, I didn't even understand things like some people won't buy homes based on the direction that it faces or how important it was that not necessarily that the home had a lot of windows, but that when you walked in, maybe it had a feeling of grandeur. Maybe it felt like the ceilings were high, or because it was really bright in there, it felt open, even if it wasn't any more square feet. If you walk into a builder's model home, and I do a lot of new construction, I'd say half my sales are new construction, the other half are resale for buyers, not for listings. And that happens a ton where people walk in and they're like, oh, this is gorgeous. I love this builder. And it's like, yeah, but this is not how their homes look. This is how their model home looks. And if you buy the home and you're not spending an extra $100,000, it's not gonna look like that. Which is why I've built a relationship with so many different builders to say, okay, I know that they do this and these people are good, and here's why. I make sure that when I'm sitting with my clients and we're talking about these things, lighting is one of the top priorities that we have a discussion about. I grew up between Chicago and Milwaukee, and so in that area, we had basements. We would hang out in our friends' basements when we were kids, and that's where all the family activities happened. That's where all the video games were played. We weren't upstairs. And the reason why is because in the summer, that's where it was cool, right? And so, like, it's ultra humid. Nobody wanted to go outside when it was hot because it was too hot. So we'd stay in the basement. And in the wintertime, that's the place with the carpet and everybody could run around. You could make all this noise and you didn't hear people running around up above you, right? Like, so it didn't disturb the parents. So that's where we hung out. So there were no windows there. We were used to being like in this dim area. It's like people that come from Seattle. No offense, Seattle, but people that come from Seattle, it's dreary skies all the time. Austin is one of those places that has one of the highest number of sunny days in the country. I mean, it's not like highest on the list, but it's up there. It's a bright city. When people are looking to relocate here, it's usually because they want that vibe that Texas and Austin are supposed to bring. And part of that is beautiful skylines and sunsets and bright days, right? You're coming to Texas, it's going to be hot. You need to know that. So if somebody's walking into a house and it's like the middle of the day and you have to turn on all the lights before you can even see anything. Like if I drop something on the floor, I don't know, like a needle. Imagine you have a safety pin. I don't know why you'd have a safety pin. Imagine if you have a safety pin, you drop it on the floor and you can't find it because it's too dark in here. You go to turn on the light doesn't do anything. That is the worst feeling ever. And if you've never owned a home, that might not resonate with you when you're looking to buy because you're like, oh, but they have really beautiful cabinets. Fine, but the cabinets can change. So now when I tour with clients, we talk about things like the light as a high priority. We talk about the direction that the home faces. If a street is heading towards the home directly, that's another, it can be taboo in certain cultures. There's so many little things that can be big things to the wrong person. And another one we should talk about is the travel time to different locations. I called this. There were people that were relocating here and they're like, oh, I can work remote. Not going to be a problem. And I said, actually, this isn't going to be forever. There are going to be so many people moving here that traffic is going to become a major issue depending on where you locate it. That is absolutely a conversation that I have with most of my buyer clients. Some people already know this, but if you're used to traffic driving like 2 hours to get to work, I feel for you. I'm sorry. When I was in the Chicagoland area, I would drive like 45 minutes. And if it was snowing, an hour and a half. I hated it. And so now when you come to Austin, if you're driving more than 15 to 30 minutes, it feels a bit much. And that's before traffic. I don't know if you saw it. I did a video that shows you on Google Maps how to set the location from where you're driving, like where you might be living to where you're driving based on the time of day. I'll link that video right here, but I also think that everybody should do that, right? So if you're looking at a specific neighborhood, so let's say it's North Austin and you want to work at Oracle, I might search for a house in Santa Rita Ranch because it's a nice community, but then I might want to work at Oracle, which is south of the river. I promise you, rush hour in Austin in the morning, like 7, 8 a.m., it is going to take you over an hour to get there. But then fast forward to 7 at night, I don't know when you would leave work, right? But fast forward to a time like that, and it might take you 30 minutes. The same applies with the airport. The same applies with grocery stores. Anywhere that you think people would need to go, or anywhere that your family might need to go. Schools, churches, hospitals, right? Libraries, grocery stores, all those things are relevant. If I buy a place or one of my clients is looking at a place and it's not near an HEB or no, just an HEB, I'm going to say something. And it's because like North versus South Austin, we have these conversations a lot, East versus West, doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you just want something that is going to be conducive to the lifestyle that you are going to be living. I had this house where the listing agent was terrible. The listing agent was terrible. So I'm not going to tell you who it was, but I was with my buyer clients and we were walking through and we were looking at this house and it was gorgeous. Like it almost didn't seem like it belonged in this neighborhood. And then the price was attractive too. I said, okay, this is good. It's all good. We ended up looking through the house and there's something that told me I should just take a look under this carpet. It was a carpet in the living room and it was just, it's not that it didn't stand out, but I was like, this is a beautiful tile floor. You kind of want to showcase that, right? Why don't you put a rug here? Rug, not a carpet, rug. And so I lifted up this rug and the largest foundation crack in my career I had seen. It was like, the gap was like this. It was insane. But it was hidden by the rug. And it's so interesting because my clients would never have seen that. The inspector for the house probably would never have seen that, right? Other agents that had walked through may never have seen that. I don't know why I saw it, but something told me to check, because that's, that's kind of the point of having one of the points of having a realtor with you, is because our job, we've seen this, seen everything, you've done good business. We've seen so many things and done so many things that it's like, oh, you got to look out for this. You got to look out for this. We ended up moving forward with the house, but my clients knew about it. And that was part of the discussion in the negotiation. They still ended up getting a gorgeous house in a gorgeous neighborhood that was priced extremely low for that neighborhood. Like, it was a win for them, even though there was this, I'll call it a concern for some people. Because what you may or may not know is that if you live in Texas, I remember like years ago when I got into real estate, one of my first mentors, she said, if you live in Texas, or if you're buying a home in Texas, you either have foundation issues or you're going to have foundation issues. I was like, oh, really? But I took it to heart, and she's not wrong. It has been a conversation almost every time. Anyway, I think the whole point of that was look out for staging tricks, just like when you're going into a new build. If you see mirrors in a room, if you see black doors painted black in a room, right? The tall ceilings, all of these things will make it seem like a room looks different. The color of the paint on the walls, all of these things, they change the aesthetic psychologically for you, right? So when you interpret it, you walk in, notice most of them are staged, especially like new construction. The model homes are staged. They want you to come in that this is all planned, because if it's staged, it makes the room look larger. And a lot of people don't have the ability to visualize their space. And so the builders are like, oh, that's okay, we'll do it for you. And so you go in, you fall in love, and now you want to buy one of their houses. And then as they're building it, you're like, this doesn't look like what I thought it was going to. Yeah, well, that's why. So another common conversation that I have with especially my new home or my first time home buyers, it's a little different with people that have purchased multiple homes over the years, like my investor clients, or, people that are just extremely savvy because they've been doing this for a while, right? Like what you need to buy versus what you want to buy, because you're worried about the difference in cost. And like, I focus on structural integrity. So here's an example. If you are talking about the back patio of a house, I know that it's better if the builder is going to offer you the extended patio option, and you know that you're going to live in Texas, and you know that you're going to be outside at all, or the sun sets in your backyard, or any of these number of things. You want to buy a home where the builder's already done the work for you, especially run all the electric and everything. Because what'll happen is some people will say, oh, no, I'll do it myself. I'll add a patio later. They'll never do it, because you don't realize that there's something called impervious coverage, where you have to get a permit to be able to extend your foundation because, I don't know, environment, right? Like, so there's impervious coverage that you have to get permits. If you do it and you don't get permits and they find out later, you won't be able to sell your house. Like, there are all these things that fall into play when you're building a patio. You might want or need, based on the HOA, need to have your roof shingles, composite shingles, or whatever shingles match the patio that you're building. Like, those are things that most people never think of. It's like, oh, I have to do that? Wait, I can't build a shed unless it matches, right? These are the things that it's like, if the builder has this in there, it's so much better having them go through all the headache of doing that and running the electrical so you can put fans out later and all that, than you doing it after the fact, unless you're like really good and you do this for a living or have family or friends that do. And like, I have a lot of connections, but I'll tell you, they'll charge you. I don't care how many 6-packs of Corona you bring them. They're still going to get you a little bit, because that's how they make their living. And so the things that don't actually matter, we paint. I think one of my first clients, we went through and we looked at like 40 something houses. And I remember he said to me, one of my first larger clients, I remember he said to me, I don't want a house that had white cabinets or dark floors. And this was like a decade ago. And I remember talking to him and I was like, okay. And so we looked at all these houses that didn't have any of that. The house that he ended up buying, white cabinets, dark floors, because easy to change. Like, relatively, you can paint cabinets, you can stain cabinets, you can change the floors. Half the time you're going to need to change the floors anyway, because a lot of builders don't actually build out the floors the way you want it. Like, you might have tile in one place and then wood in another, or carpet in another. And it's like, well, I'd rather have it all. Like, that's the kind of conversation that you end up having. The transitions between floors, it's terrible. People don't like it. So yeah, when you're talking about bay windows, when you're talking about like the pitch of the roof and cedar beams and all that sort of stuff that are kind of built into the structure of the home, those are priority things. Like if they're deal breakers on your list, those are needs. Like you can't go and add a garage later without spending a good amount of money. Like I think I've talked enough about this point, but you get what I'm saying, right? Like focus on the structure of the home because a lot of the aesthetics you can just augment later. You can change later. I don't know why I'm using these words. You can change later. Is it hot? I am sweating. Oh my goodness. It's because I'm bouncing around too much. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about is homes that don't have a future when it comes to resale value. When you are buying a home, unless this is your forever home, and even then sometimes, you want to make sure that it's going to be something that not only fits for your family today, but something that fits for the next family tomorrow. And if you've made it this far in the video, this is probably going to be the most important thing, even if, like all of them are important, but this one I think is the best. So thank you for sticking around for this. And if you have any other points, please add them in the comments because I might have to make another video to add a few more because there's so much to talk about. We do a lot. Realtors that do a lot of business do a lot of different things. And I don't think people see that. Anyway, most Americans, when they're buying a home, they're buying them as an investment because they're terrible at savings. I don't know if that's why, but so they're buying this home with the hope that when they need to sell it or there's a life change in the future, they have equity built up. And so they can use that equity to either A, buy another home, B, maybe use that to fund a business, maybe use that to buy a larger home, maybe use that to buy an investment property. It doesn't really matter. Maybe something they want to leave to their kids. In almost every case, nobody wants to just give away money. And so part of that is we have historically, especially in the Austin area, have historically gone up and up and up and up and up. Most people, you don't lose homes unless you lose money on homes a lot of times, unless you're like panic selling or there was an emergency shift in your lifestyle that you didn't account for or couldn't prepare for, and it caused you to have to sell prematurely. And that's like a topic for a whole other day. But ideally, people want to buy a house that becomes an investment. And that is extremely important in the grand scheme of things. And so if you're buying a house that has purple walls, who cares? Fine. Just make sure that you can change that later, right? If you're buying a house that has a funky floor plan, but it's in a master plan community where everyone expects there to be a 4-bedroom, 2 baths, and you have and a 2-car garage, and you have 1-car garage. Oh, that's going to be a problem later. Because I don't know if you know this, but in Texas, storage is scarce. And so converting that one half of a garage to an office space can often be a challenge. And I've dealt with that. The other thing is, and I'm going to this is kind of a reverse way to look at it. Schools, a lot of people put a ton of weight on the school or the school district. And I get that if you're going to have kids, but if you're going to have kids, if you're going to plan a family in 7 years, right, there's a probability that your starter home, which there's nothing wrong with buying a starter home, that your starter home won't be won't be something that you are looking at as a forever home. You're only going to be in it for 4 years. Well, if you end up having starting a family, then you might want to move. That school district might not be anything like what it was when you moved in 5 years because we're building so fast and things change a lot. There's a lot of dynamics happening in Austin. And so you can look up a school district and 5 years or 10 years later, it is not the same school district. So while there should be some credence to it, you also want to understand more about like the neighborhood, the area, the builders, all those other factors, those variables in there. And on a more positive note, I remember when the Kalahari was first being built. It's the United States, maybe the world, but the United States' largest indoor water park. And I remember it was being built in Round Rock, Texas. And I was driving up 79 and I was like, okay, cool. I even went to not their grand opening, but when they were talking about the building plans, and I met the director who was in charge of it all. We had some conversations. And so it was 351 acres, and this little farmhouse, they bought that land to build a Kalahari for $27.5 million. So now think about this. The person that was buying this little farmhouse many years ago, obviously it had some land, but there was probably a little dirt road. Didn't even have a name or a number assigned to it. It's a little dirt road. They're like, you know what? I can see something here one day. And obviously not everybody's going to have this foresight, but they made out big. And when it comes to foresight, a lot of times when I'm talking to my clients, I specifically refer to what are corridor zones and locations. So that way, when we're discussing where to buy and why to buy, we consider that in our evaluation. The corridor zones are huge, huge, huge things to consider. Like I'll use an example. People who are into the space industry, I'll use that, into aerospace. Think about where SpaceX is, and then think about where Tesla is, and then think about the fact that the CEO is, the same person, at least right now, and think about the road that you'll travel to go between those two places, right? So I feel like 290, while it's not really discussed a whole lot right now, I feel like that is going to be a huge corridor zone over the years. And it had its day late 2000s, like 2014, 2017, between that era, it had its day. Maynard blew up. Elgin started to pop a little bit, and then COVID and all these things happened. But I think it's going to come back. I think because of Boring Company, Tesla, SpaceX, all of these things with specifically that type of clientele, they're going to need to build houses. And I've sold houses in the Colony, in Bastrop. That's one of those. There are a few neighborhoods around there, cute little downtowns. There are reasons why these corridor zones really, really, really matter when you're considering buying a home. Anyway, I'm divergent a bit. So let me just get back to saying bad house purchases aren't always obvious, but avoiding those mistakes, that's how you make smart moves. And don't forget, my job is to help people buy and sell all over the place. I've got a network of realtors all across the United States, Canada, some international as well. And if you don't know where to start, you can always go to ianofAustin.com. There are going to be tons of resources on there to help you on your journey. If you enjoyed this video, I hope that I've earned you as a subscriber, and I'd love for you to watch one of my next videos. See you next time.